In our first story tonight, President Akufo-Addo has charged the private sector to do all it can to support the move by the central bank to restore confidence in the banking sector. The president said his government will give all the necessary assistance to the regulator to ensure that Ghanaians have confidence in the sector. He therefore noted that the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda cannot be achieved with only foreign banks and called for efforts to strengthen indigenous banks. Ebenezer Sabotage has more in this report.
There is a particular subject I can hardly avoid, no matter how sensitive. I refer to the troubles in our banking sector. The viability of the banking and financial sectors is critical in any nation's quest for rapid economic development and investment growth. A nation's economic fortune is often as good as its banking system and the confidence in its monetary environment. Recent events on the banking scene in our country have been a cause of worry for all of us. I'm relieved that the Bank of Ghana is tightening up its regulatory and oversight activities on banks, especially in the areas of lending and other risky endeavors. We cannot afford instability or recklessness in the banking and financial sectors. For any loss of confidence in the banks is bound to have a ripple effect on the stability of the economy as a whole. I want to urge all of us to allow the regulator, which is the central bank, to deal with these matters and restore sanity and confidence. It is in all our interests that all financial matters are dealt with professionally and without political interference, no matter how tempting. Nonetheless, it is important that the regulator recognizes that a banking sector dominated by foreign-owned banks does not bode well for the Ghana Beyond Aid project. It is essential that indigenous banks grow and survive in any meaningful reform of the banking system. And I'm confident that the regulator, the Bank of Ghana, appreciates this.
So that was President Akufo-Addo speaking at the third Ghana CEO Summit. Meanwhile, country representative of the International Monetary Fund, Natalia Koliadina, has given a thumbs up to the Bank of Ghana for the strict measures adopted recently to ensure that the country's banking environment is safe and strong. She was one of the panelists at the ongoing third Ghana CEO Summit in Accra.
Indeed, what the Bank of Ghana has been doing, it has been ensuring that the financial sector here in Ghana is sound, and it is very important for all businesses. And why it is so important is because all of you need financing. And we all know that despite declining interest rates and despite the Bank of Ghana reducing its policy rate, lending rates are still quite high. And the reason for that is a high level of non-performing loans. What is this? This is a legacy issue which was accumulated over the years. However, it cannot really be, the decision of this issue cannot really be protracted. So I would say that the Bank of Ghana is taking very decisive measures in a timely and orderly manner, and we all look forward to the resolution and to reducing the non-performing loans, which would actually encourage banks to lend more to the private sector, hopefully at lower rates.
The impact of the indefinite strike called by the LPG Operators Association is gradually being felt. Several filling stations in Accra remain shut with customers left disappointed. Charles Aite has been around some of the stations and comes through with this report.
Operators of LPG across the country have responded to a call by the leadership to strike and protest against the new cylinder recirculation model. During our visit, it was observed that various gas filling stations were closed down. Here at the Trinity LPG filling station, the situation was not different, as some consumers expressed their frustration to Joy Business. Amidi operates on a gas-powered vehicle. To him, the indefinite strike will directly affect his business.
This have to buy gas because I need to serve my customers, and I need gas. Without gas, I can't move to serve my customers also. Because every day I came here to buy gas, but this morning I came here to buy gas, and here the place is closed.
So what's your next option?
Well, I need to park the car because I don't have gas to move the car now, because I need to park the car now.
How do you feel about this strike action by them?
Yeah, it's very bad because I was here on Friday. They told me the action cannot go on this morning because I'm surprised when I came to the gas filling station I couldn't get gas. So this is serious because I need to go and park the car in the house. I don't think if I park the car you can park because my gas is empty now. I need to top up.
Joy Business also spoke with another LPG consumer who felt frustrated about the development.
I'm here to fill my gas.
But you know the guys are not opening, right?
Yeah, I heard it on telly and radio. Yeah, but I thought, it was just a joke, but I didn't know I thought this serious. Yeah. Right now, I've noticed that the strike is very, they really mean it, so I need to go and put it down for further notice. Right now, I need to use charcoal and then so that.
Our next stop was the gold filling station at Dansoman in Accra. Our decision to visit the station was to confirm a release by the indigenous marketing company that all their LPG filling outlets would not be affected by the indefinite strike by the LPG Operators Association. The company was not officially closed but was not active as a result of some technical challenges encountered. Owusu Kwarten is the manager of the Dansoman gas filling station.
We have a lot of some challenges. On Friday, Saturday, the number of people that came here had effect on our weighing skills. So we call in our mechanics. They've just finished with the work. So you are looking, even the way it is, you have 3, but 2 is out of order. And to manage one with the number of people we were anticipating, that will rush here. That's why we want to at least get 2 working. On normal occasions, the number of people that come here is no joke. It's an average of 600 to 700 cylinders a day. So if other stations around are not selling, you can imagine how the place will be like. That's why we decided not to start to make sure that you have the skills working.
There are fears the gas stations open to business could be overwhelmed by the huge number of LPG consumers as the strike proceeds. Meanwhile, there was some panic buying in parts of Kumasi over the weekend. Prince Apia visited some of the LPG joints in the regional capital and also spoke with the leadership of the association as well as some consumers in Kumasi.
At some of the LPG filling stations across Kumasi, and we've witnessed that the strike is in full force. Now, over here in particular at Bokum, we've realized that some people are trooping one after the other, don't have any idea about the strike this morning. We are told that about 92 gas filling stations are dotted across Ashanti region, and all of them have decided to lay down their tools and strike because of the cylinder recirculation project they wanted to stop. We
usually from many people say they were strike sate and day until my customers and do not imagine some bugas in so celebrate your honchiro movie until my free Friday in Bana as a rushing woman marketing.
Since it was announced on Friday, there was panic buying. Many people came here over the weekend to buy. We even had to sell deep into the night in order to serve the many customers that came here. It was mostly the commercial drivers who came to buy. We really made enough money at least to cover for us this week. But we are not happy with the recirculation model to be introduced.
Around 12 o'clock. But none yet if you cylinders no cars no na ema adwuma no time no ko animu sabe o drivers ndo do na mi say ye ko strike na o munya gas mi fa nya adwuma ntino obi a person filling the car say dey be obitimi adwuma be say
Since government announced the introduction of the cylinder recirculation project, a lot of people have raised concerns about how it's going to impact on the local businesses and how it is not going to be helpful at all for businesses in the country. And as a result, a lot of associations have decided to ask a lot of questions from the state why he has decided to go on this particular path. There's been a lot of negotiations, a lot of talks behind the scenes to ensure that all parties are okay with this particular introduction.
The mandatory for using cylinder, I mean the domestic one, the maximum years is 10 years. So in case they implement this policy, they will need about 60 million cylinders in Ghana, because we are up to 30 million so far in population. Each person will own 2 cylinders, one at your house and the other at your retail center. It will take 10 years before this cylinder will phase out from the system. By then, what is GCMC doing, producing or manufacturing the cylinders for? They have nothing to do, so they have to. It will be our interest to tell our share customer that in a week time we are coming back. But for now, what we have heard, we are not coming back to the business again.
What have you heard?
The government, through Hassan Tampuli, the chief executive of NPA, has vowed to make sure that we, the retailers, will never come back to the business again. What we are saying, there should be some parity somewhere to correct all the challenges that will avail from the policy. But they are not listening to us. We can't just wait a whole policy like that.
Well, the National Petroleum Authority has been reacting to these latest developments, warning LPG Operators Association to desist from stopping those who are not supportive of the strike from carrying on with their legitimate business. In a statement, the NPA said the security agencies would deal ruthlessly with such groups and individuals who engage in the illegality. The statement identifies groups not taking part in the strike as LPG marketing companies, LPG tanker drivers union, All LPG stations across the country, and All Hills Oil, which is a market leader. You're watching Business Live. Let's move on to another story that is developing today. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has dropped the policy rate to 17%. The Bank of Ghana dropped the rate from 18% by 100 basis points. The rate is the lowest since November 2013. There is more in this report.
According to the governor of the Bank of Ghana, the cut was due to favorable economic outlook.
Global growth is expected to strengthen in the short term, supported by positive business and consumer confidence and expectations of stronger profitability. The higher growth will speed up exit from unconventional monetary policies in the advanced countries. Although global financing conditions remain favorable, the strengthening of the US dollar, rising oil prices, and US long-term yields are beginning to exert pressures on emerging market currencies and could have implications on frontier economies.
On the recapitalization, the governor insisted that it would not revise the December 31 deadline.
I think we have been very clear in that communication on sticking to the deadline, and we have given the options, the options for those who cannot meet the deadline. So we expect that by the end of the next Monetary Policy Committee meeting, we should be able to tell you the banks that are taking advantage of the various options that have been put on the table. Hopefully by that time, the committee that is looking at ways in which government can support the local, domestic, indigenous.
Dr. Addison added that it has come very far in taking a decision on gold buying firm Men's Gold.
What is clear to us is that they have a system that accept deposits from the public. That is becoming very clear. We are trying to have discussions with the ministry in charge of, is it Lands and Mineral Resources, who originally gave them their license, right? So we are trying to have discussions with the ministry on the way forward in addressing the men's gold issue. But we are convinced that they are taking deposits. And we don't want to act alone. We want to have an action which will be also backed by another arm of the government.
The governor also added that they're expecting a report from KPMG on what next for Unibank after acting as administrators.
Well, joining me in studio to talk more about this is economist with Data Bank, Courage Mate, and to look at the impact, how this drop will affect businesses. Courage, thanks for joining us tonight. This is the third consecutive time, if I'm not mistaken, that the central bank has dropped the policy rate. What is their thinking?
Well, basically, the policy rate is a signaling tool, and then in that sense, it is used to signal to the market that the risk to the outlook is now lower, and the main risk the signal is inflation risk. So once inflation declines, inflation is a risk to the capital. So when you give out your money, by the time you get it back, inflation would have reduced a certain component of the value. And so once it is going down, then the risk that the value will be reduced has gone down. And so the central bank signals that by reducing the policy rate. And what it's supposed to mean is to translate into other market interest rates going down. And so it signals to the commercial banks that now the risk is lower. You should also adjust your rates appropriately going forward.
So this essentially is the reality on the ground, and that's forcing the central bank to drop the policy rate. Let's talk about the trickle-down effect, because whenever there's a drop, we talk about the impact on businesses, and we've seen businesses complain time and time again. We are not seeing any difference at all when it comes to the cost of credit. How do you think this is going to translate to a drop in maybe the cost of credit?
Yeah, I think there are two things that should be considered here. So once the policy rate signals the outlook, the banks are dealing with not just the outlook, but the past, because we've come from a past where a lot of troubles in the financial sector and the economy at large led to a deteriorating loan book, so that about 23% of their loan book averagely is at risk of not being paid back. Now, if that happens, those are depositors' funds that they collected and gave out as loans. That is at risk of not being paid back. The only way they can make up for that is to charge high interest rates. So until that situation improves, you may not see, and we are not likely to see, immediate reduction in the overall lending rates. However, a component of it is the reference rate, which we expect to see immediate impact on. But the risk premium is where there will be some sluggishness.
I know that most of the banks complained that we're being owed by government. We've heard government say we're going to try to settle all the debts. And so my next question was going to be, is there going to be a timeline? Are we ever going to see that the cost of credit reduces because of the decision the central bank has taken?
Yeah, I think
anytime soon.
There will be, for me, my expectation will be like the next 3 months. And even the governor himself alluded to the fact that it's not likely immediately. They are still assessing the impact, and they are looking towards Q3. And I would think that late or ending of Q3 before we will start seeing the impact, because that will be the time when a lot of the capitalization issues or recapitalization issues will also start coming home, and we'll see which of the banks are meeting it and will meet it, and that should start driving the banks' readiness to start lending.
All right, stay with me, Courage, because there's this other story I want to pick your thoughts on. The country's debt stock reached 145 billion cedis ending February this year. This is according to the latest Bank of Ghana economic data. The report shows that from the end of December 2017 to February this year, the stock of debt has gone up by 2.5 billion cedis. So what is causing this increase despite several programs to contain it, and how are the other sectors of the economy performing according to the Bank of Ghana? We have details in this report.
It is still not clear for now what might be the reason for the jump in debt stock by 2.5 billion cedis in 2 months. However, persons with knowledge of the debt numbers say it possibly had to do with the cedi's marginal depreciation, which impacted negatively on the country's foreign loans, paying off debts, and the issuance of some new bonds. The data showed that 53% of the debt were borrowings from outside the country, with the remaining from the local market. However, when you look at the debt in relation to the value of the economy, which is a little over 200 billion cedis, or let's say debt to GDP ratio, it has reduced from about 73% end of 2016 to 70% end of last year, and now 60%. But some have attributed this to the expansion of the economy on government operations. The data revealed that revenue appears to be going up after initial challenges from the first month of this year. However, the same report revealed that expenditure was going up, but funds directed to capital projects were on the low. On the banking side, commercial banks in the country were still struggling with recovering loans that they fear might not be paid on time, with the industry's NPL reaching 23.4%. Now, apart from capital adequacy ratio, which had improved, other indicators of the banking sector were not that good, as the report showed that growth in loans and deposits have slowed down significantly.
And so you've watched that report, Courage. I mean, not too long ago, government was boasting about good economic figures. We've heard the government also talk about Ghana beyond aid. Should we be worried that in just 2 months, our debt stock has risen by 2.5 billion cedis?
No, we shouldn't, and we shouldn't on several counts. First of all, let me emphasize that as long as we run a fiscal deficit or budget deficit, we will always have to borrow to close the deficit. Now, so when you borrow, it should add to your debt stock. It is the rate of borrowing that we should be looking at, and over the past couple of years, we've seen a slowdown in the rate of borrowing because the deficit has been reducing. So the amount of money you need to borrow has also been reducing. Now, in Q1, when the government published the issuance calendar, what they indicated on the calendar was that they were going to issue a total of about 11.3 billion Ghana cedis. Of these 11.3 billion Ghana cedis, they expect to roll over a little over 8 billion Ghana cedis, so that the excess will be the new borrowings. And if you do your cross-checks, that more or less equals the 2.5 billion cedis that we are looking at the end of Q1. So I think that the fiscal behavior of the government is what has led to that. But that shows that the debt portfolio will be growing at a slower pace, because if you measure it against the GDP, we are seeing a more tolerable level of debt to GDP ratio around 60%. I must add, however, that as we go the full course of the year, we are likely to see the debt to GDP ratio go higher than that 60%, but lower than the 69% we ended last year with. All right, thanks very much for your perspective. That was economist Courage Mate. We are grateful. Let's move on to something very exciting. The mode of healthcare delivery is always changing thanks to technology. And at the Joy Business Health and Wellness Trade Show, which opens this Thursday, we are going to introduce you to some of these innovations. One of such is a Safe Doctor telemedicine app, which makes it possible for users to access healthcare whenever and from wherever they are with just a tap on the phone. Dr. Victor Go is behind the Safe Doctor app.
Safe Doctor is a telemedicine app that has been developed to provide quality, convenient, affordable healthcare needs to the general population. The benefits of using Safe Doctor, there are many, but I'll just name a few. First and foremost, it is very convenient. With the price of a consultation in any other hospital, you get to see a doctor when and where you need it. It doesn't matter whether you're at home, whether you're in the office, or whether you're sitting in a taxi. A doctor will be on call, and you'll be able to access the doctor. once you have a smartphone and you download the app, a doctor is at hand for you to consult with. And at the moment, there's over 127% mobile phone penetration in Ghana, meaning that some people have 2 or even 3 mobile phones. So as long as you have a smartphone and you download the app, you should have a doctor at hand at your convenience and at any time.
Well, blood donation will be one of the major highlights of the Joy Business Health and Wellness Trade Show to contribute to the blood bank. Now, according to reports, Ghana has less than 40% of voluntary blood donors due to many social-cultural perceptions held by many on the need to donate blood. Ahead of the trade show, the head of the National Blood Service, Joyce Opong Edu, says they are hopeful the trade show will provide a platform to educate the public on blood donation.
We normally don't have enough blood in our blood banks, okay? So we actually always need blood in our blood banks. So the availability of blood in the blood banks, to me, I wouldn't say we don't, not that we don't have blood at all, but then we always need blood. The challenge is that most people are not willing to donate. Some have, perceptions and misconceptions about blood donation, actually. So that is why we are embarking on education, and the fair is serving as a good opportunity to educate people.
All right, so make your way to the Accra Digital Center on Thursday. That's when the Joy Business Health and Wellness Trade Show opens. A lot of you have been asking where it is. It's simple. It's just opposite the Audome Cemetery in Accra. And so bringing more in subsequent bulletins. Thanks for watching Business Live. My name is Daryl Kwao. We're back same time tomorrow.